Welcome back. Okay, welcome back to the GTM games and breaking it down to the ridiculous. It is go-to-market strategy. GTM, why GTM? We need to have tactics and strategy. I remember this brilliant consultant named Robert Pineault and he used to say there's strategy and there's tactics. And I didn't really know what it meant, but somehow today I feel like we're going to talk about both, right? We've got Josh Braun here, very exciting. And he is in some ways self-described Bob Ross of email. And for those who loved Bob Ross, the joy of painting, this incredible painting thought leader taught us to just paint with easy techniques. He made it this super complex thing easy. And I think it's something Josh does through his work is he breaks down the complexity of persuasion and neuroscience and a lot of the psychology into email tactics that work. And today it's all about marketers doing sales drills. And Josh Braun of Sales DNA and Josh Braun's training is going to take us through the anatomy of a cold email and maybe how it's disparate from traditional longer marketing emails. And yeah, this is the GTM Games hype cycle. And everyone here, they won the last round, which was the cold calling battle with Steve Richard. And we're going to go straight into the lesson with Josh, and we're going to skip ahead. If you need to know the contestants, just go online to hypecycle.com and let's take it to the bridge.
I'd like to start with a quiz for the contestants. I'm going to tell you two stories, and you tell me what these stories have in common. Each story is 2 minutes. Here's story number one, and they're both true. Several years ago, I'm in the mall with my wife, and I did not need anything. I was just keeping her company as she shopped because we were going to get dinner afterwards. And to kill some time, I went into a fit to run store, not needing anything. If the store associate said, "What brings you in today, Robyn?" what would I have said?
Nothing.
Nothing. Samantha, if the store associate said, "Can I help you?" what do you think I would have said, Samantha?
No, I'm just looking around.
Just looking around, right. Arthur, if the store associate said, "Do you have any problems?" what do you think I would have said?
No, I'm okay.
I'm okay. She didn't do any of those things. She looked down at my sneakers. She said, "Are you a runner?" I said, "Yes." She said, "What distance?" I said, "I'm training for a marathon." And she said, "Have you ever had a running gait test?" And moments later, I'm on a treadmill in the store. She freezes the video frame and she said, "Notice how your ankles are overpronating when you run." And I said, "Yeah, I do see that." And she said, "Did you know that if you run in sneakers that are not made for pronated feet, you can get injured on long distance runs and get sidelined? And if you'd like, I could check your sneakers to see if they're made for pronated feet." And 2 minutes later, I'm spending $160 on new sneakers and insoles. That's story number one. Story number two, I love to wash my car on the weekends. I buy my car wash supplies from this place called Adam's Car Wash Supply Company. They must have my name on an email list. And I get this email that I'll never forget, I don't know, a year or two ago. And the sentence said this: "Josh, how do you know that your car wash mitt isn't scratching your car?" Now, I'm a guy obsessed with my car. And it turns out that if you use a normal bucket and a sponge, dirt can get on the sponge. And if you're a car nut like me, what you'll notice is these swirl marks on the dark colored paint. That's a big problem for me because I got to get that taken care of. That's an $800 job to do it right. Not to mention when I sell the car, they run a paint thin meter over the hood and they can tell it's been repainted. So the car is worth less money. Adam sells a new type of bucket with a grate on the bottom of it. You actually rub your sponge on the grate and the dirt settles to the bottom of the bucket and off your car. It was like $40 and I bought it. Here's the question for the panelists or the contestants. What do those two stories have in common? Let's start with, anybody want to go first? Anybody can raise their hand. Okay, Robyn in the center square.
They helped you identify a problem that you didn't know you had.
Anybody else want to add to that?
I think they showed you the cost of inaction right after they shine that light on the problem, what could happen.
Yes. Why am I telling you this? Everybody you write a cold email to or make a cold call to is washing their car with a sponge and a bucket. Everybody that you write a cold email to or make a cold call to is running in their sneakers. And everybody's making progress without you. So before we start to write an email, we have to have a point of view. Step number one, what is it that you know that your prospect doesn't know that can hurt them? And I use the word hurt on purpose because not all problems are worth my attention. I have a problem right now in my back bedroom. There's a pixel out on my TV. It's a problem, but I rarely watch that TV. And when I do, I barely notice the pixel. So I'm not going to do anything about it because I have limited resources. So we have to pick a problem that is big and expensive, frequent and intense. And then we have to have a point of view. What is it that the person working at the sneaker store knew that I didn't know? Anybody know the answer to that question? What is it that the person working at the shoe store at Fit to Run, what did she know that I didn't know?
Pronated feet cause injuries in long distance runners for guys like your age.
And every problem has an impact. What happens if I get, yeah, my age, I heard that, you're out. No, so what happens if you get pronated, what happens if you get injured on a run? What happens to my race, to my marathon?
You're gonna have to sit it out.
Got to sit it out. All problems have implications. I call it twisting the knife. What's the problem of the car wash bucket story? What was the problem and what was the implication? Let's go to Samantha for that one. What was the problem that Adam helped me identify and what was the implication of it? What terrible thing happened after the problem?
The terrible thing that happened after the problem. So that would be an injury, right?
Yeah, the injury in the sneaker example, but in the car wash example, what problem did Adam help me identify that I could have by using a normal bucket and a sponge?
Scratching your car.
Yeah, and what happens after I scratch my car? What happens after that?
People will think, oh, he's driving around in a scratched up car.
Yeah, and what about the costs?
And it's going to cost you to fix it.
That's right. So the first thing I want to ask you guys for the email that you wrote, because we have to start there, because if we're selling better buckets and if we're selling faster sneakers, nobody cares because everyone's making progress today without you. Nobody's sitting around running in their bare feet, probably, unless they're from Kenya. Nobody's sitting around not washing their car with a sponge. So I want to go around the room here and I want you to tell me, what is it that you know that your prospect doesn't know, and why does that matter? What terrible, no good, very bad thing happens if they do nothing? Who wants to try that first? This is a tough exercise, I know. So you'll tell me, hey, this is our prospect, and this is the job they're trying to get done. But what they don't know is they might be, if they have pronated feet, and they're running in sneakers that are not made for pronated feet, they can get shin splints. They could get runner's knee. And that sucks because they'll get sidelined. They won't be able to run anymore. I want to hear your point of view for this prospect. This, to me, I think is the big missing piece with not just cold emails, but cold calls. Because what we're calling and emailing sometimes is, let me show you my bucket. I got a bucket.
I can go if you want.
Sneakers. Yeah,
I'm happy to go. So we're talking about our current, what we currently offer, right?
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Okay, so just to set the scene a little bit, just to give you a bit of background. So I currently sell to C-levels that are sort of fast-growing tech companies, Series A to Series B, that are looking to grow their marketing efforts and looking to grow their marketing team, right? And a trigger for me to reach out to people would be that they're looking for a senior marketing hire. So head of marketing, VP of marketing, or CMO. And when I go and do a bit of research, if they have a smaller team and they're looking to build, they've sort of ignored their marketing up until now, I can pretty much assume that their VC, whoever's backing them, has pushed them into hiring a marketing hire, right? Now, what I know is from my side is that from a CEO's perspective, they think that they can probably hire somebody quickly, get them up to speed quickly, and then manage the team, and marketing is no longer their headache. Okay. So the reality of that is very different. So if you've got maybe a team of 2 to 3 marketers and you're looking to hire a CMO, I would say you need to step away and review that strategy and hire somebody that's a little less senior than a CMO, right? So I know the problems that are going to arise down the road are, first of all, they're going to spend time right now at the moment. It's really hard to find senior marketing hires. So they're going to spend a lot of time trying to find somebody. They're under pressure from VCs to get things up and running quickly and make sure that their marketing is connected to their sales team and making sure that marketing is providing back revenue into the organization. So they're missing time and trying to find somebody. Their current marketing effort doesn't know what to do. And when they come on board, that person's going to need a couple of months to get on board. And if they hire that CMO high-level person, what's going to happen is that person is probably not want to get their hands very dirty on execution. So they need somebody to come in and actually help them with the execution piece and actually guide them towards, hiring the right person for that marketing hire, which is probably a step below that CMO. So does that make sense? Does that actually answer the question?
That was a phenomenal job because you have a point of view that goes against conventional wisdom. Conventional wisdom is got to hire a CMO. And what you're doing is you're saying, hey, let me poke the bear a little bit and let me shine a light on the terrible, no good things that can happen if you go down this path. Because to stand out, we have to stand for something. So awesome job. Let's go to you, Robyn. Same exercise. What is it that you know that your prospect doesn't know? Then we're going to get to the emails.
Okay, so we know that based on 100 different sales tests that we've done for clients, that the majority of mistakes are made when onboarding a team. So there's always pain points when you're hiring, onboarding, setting up tools, setting up processes. So we've been able to make 100 mistakes so that nobody that we're prospecting has to make those for themselves.
When you say mistakes for onboarding, what are these mistakes that people are making? Part of this is being a little bit crispy or specific too.
Yeah.
This is a really good lesson as we get into the emails. One of the sort of golden rules of the emails that we're going to be looking at is we want to be very specific, or I call it crispy, because when we're generic and we say things like onboarding mistakes or increase revenue or save time, we're so general, everyone says that. And so it just doesn't hit you as much. So let's make the optics a little, zoom in a little bit on what kind of mistakes specifically.
So let's say they rely on inbound only and don't specifically hire someone for outbound.
And what terrible, no good, very bad thing happens if they do that? It sounds fine to me. Those outbound people are a nightmare.
If they rely on inbound only, what happens when inbound leads dry up?
Or the feast and famine rut, right? Like good 1 month, bad the end of the month. So these are people that are just focused on inbound. And the perspective you have is, if you rely just on inbound, you may have a feast or famine rut. You don't really predict, you don't have predictability. Okay. All right, let's go to you, Samantha. Nice job. What is it that you know that your prospect doesn't know?
I'm over here thinking that I maybe shouldn't have gone the inviting you to a podcast route.
No, it's good. Let's actually change the question for you then. What is it that I get out of being on your podcast?
Yeah. So along the lines I was thinking is that, so you're trying to expand your mission of, eliminating commission breath, helping sellers guide people to persuade themselves instead of trying to actually persuade people into buying. And that you might be missing out on 50,000 extra listeners per month hearing your mission, signing up for your newsletter by not being on our podcast.
Now, why does that matter to me? Let's go deeper. Besides my ego, like it's great, but why? Let's drill down a little bit further. Why does that Why does that matter? Why does that 50,000 audience matter to me?
Because as you're evangelizing your mission, you want to be aligned with people who have a similar mission, who are talking about the same things to partner on that.
Let's keep going. Why? Why do I want to be aligned with them? Why do I care? What does that allow me to do or be that I can't do without you? What does that get me? You're so close to this. Anyone want to help? You can phone a friend if you want, Samantha.
Andy, I'm trying to think.
What do I sell?
Sales training.
Sell sales training. I got this B2B growth guide. I got these tongue-tied flashcards. I got this cold call course. When I get more reach, what does that help me do?
It helps elevate the entire sales profession.
What does it get me?
Potentially more leads.
Yes. Reach is kind of like a first step to currency. Reach isn't currency. Like, people get exposed to me, they have to get trust, but then they buy stuff. The more people that see my stuff, the more people buy my stuff. So the sort of fireball, the thing that's in it for me is reach with a specific audience of salespeople, 50,000 of them. A percentage of those people will say, wow, that was a really great interview. Who is this guy? And they might go to my LinkedIn profile and follow me for a while. And then a percentage of them might click on my link and buy some stuff. So you're on the right track, Samantha. And I loved how you started with commission breath, because that's something I write about all the time. That's going to definitely get my attention. All right, let's go to you, Arthur. What do you know that your prospects might not know that can hurt them?
Yeah, so in B2B, I sell typically to demand gen marketers. 70 to 85% of their demo requests on their website never make it into the sales pipeline.
Wow. And this is kind of obvious, but let's just say it anyway. Why does that matter?
Well, I'm sure all of that hard work that the marketer did to get them intrigued, interested, seeing potentially if they could solve a problem, they're doing their work, and then basically sales is kind of hindering how good of a job they're doing, because if they don't get in touch within a certain timeline, maybe they're off doing something else onto their competitor's website.
Okay, so this is great, right? So it's not that they're not getting in touch, it's that they're getting in touch too long, and because it's too long, they go somewhere else.
Correct. Yeah.
That's really strong, really strong. Okay, so each of you now has a perspective and a point of view, and more importantly, you know why it matters to the person you're reaching out, meaning what terrible thing happens if I don't go on the podcast? The terrible thing that happens if I don't go on the podcast is I miss out on reach. And when I miss out on reach, I miss out on sales. The terrible thing that happens if I don't listen to Arthur is I miss out on demos, and I've spent all this money as a chief marketing officer. Someone's eventually going to say, where all this money going? And they're going to say, I don't know. They get fired because these leads aren't being actioned on quick enough and people are losing, right? So you got to get the idea. Now we can actually write an email now that we have a point of view. And what I'd like to share with you is an actual email that Justin rewrote of mine. So I had a post a while back. It was an email that I thought was pretty good. And Justin actually shrunk it. And let's talk a little bit about shrinkage for a second. Not the kind that you're normally thinking about, but with regards to email. As Justin talks about this as well, your prospects' attention is being pulled by lots of different things that you may or may not know about. Netflix, The White Lotus, if you haven't seen that, they're probably watching it. Angry Birds, if they're my age, I still like that game. Text notifications, PowerPoint presentations, face-to-face meetings, tons of stuff. It's almost like they're drinking information out of a fire hose. So when we're communicating with them, brevity is key. Justin talks about this as well all the time. Brevity is not without substance, meaning we're not going to gloss over things. It's actually hard to be brief because we have to show deep knowledge. We have to be very specific, and we actually have to shine a light on what it is the prospect doesn't know that they could be doing better. And we have to do it in a clear way. in less than 5 lines. Very difficult to do. Now, with the podcast one, I think it's a little bit different. And I'll kind of explain to you why that is in a second. But generally speaking, we want to try to keep the email to about 5 lines. Let me walk you through the 5 lines and show you an example, because we want to grade your email based on good, and we have to know what good is. So we'll talk about it really briefly, and then I'll show you the one that Justin rewrote of mine, and then we'll compare it to yours. Okay, so the first sentence I call, it's called 4T. The first sentence is what I call truth. And all of you just started with it. Samantha did probably a great job of this. What is it that's true about your prospect that you can observe that relates to something you know that they don't know? So Samantha started with, hey, Josh, you write about commission breath all the time, and your mission is X, Y, and Z. That's a truth that she observed. Imagine that you are a landscaper and a hurricane just went through Florida. A truth could be, I'm guessing that Hurricane Irma destroyed your lawn like many people in Boca Raton. If you're a triathlon coach and you're seeing people training for an Ironman in Mexico, you might say 12 weeks until Ironman Cozumel. That is something that's true for all the people that signed up for Cozumel. If I was selling to Justin, 7 weeks until your hyper event. So our first sentence doesn't have to be real long, and it doesn't have to be something specific on their LinkedIn profile. You don't have to say, notice you went to Florida State. It could be something about that group of people. It's what I call personal, but not personalized. And it's got to be specific. So all people training for this triathlon, all people in Boca Raton, Florida that had this hurricane, all people that are hiring CMOs. That's sentence number 1. Sentence number 2 is what I call the think sentence. Something that's going to make the prospect think differently about how they're getting the job done today. Let me tell you how those work together. So sentence number 1, Josh, noticed you love to wash your Audi S4 on the weekends because you've been ordering a lot of products for us. Sentence number 2, to think, how do you know your car wash mitt isn't scratching your car? How do you know? How do you know the leads you're generating are being actioned by reps, or actually resulting in demos? Because how do you know they're getting to them fast enough? How do you know? Third sentence is third-party credibility. Here's some people like you that are doing it better. So all together, hey Josh, noticed you wash your car. What are you doing to ensure your car wash mitt doesn't scratch your car? Other Audi A4 owners are using our buckets to ensure the dirt stays to the bottom of their bucket and off their car. No scratches, no swirl marks. So that's different than what they're doing now, something they don't know. And then the final sentence is just what I call talk. Worth exploring, worth a brief email exchange. Is this of interest? I'm not so much asking for time, just gauging interest first. So what I want to do is I want to show you an email that Justin rewrote of mine. He made it much more succinct, but you're going to see it kind of follows this same format. So I'm going to show
Josh, let me pause you for 1 second and just thank the sponsors, because you've been transfixing this crowd. And I think there's somewhat like 100 people online or more. So thank you to the Josh Braun worldwide following, and want to thank you. You've been an amazing supporter. We want to thank Outreach, SalesLoft, ConnectAndSell, PandaDoc, Chili Piper, leadiQ, SalesFeed, Chatmetrics, Syncari, Slintel, Outplay, Sapper Consulting, Vidyard, Lob, Wingman, Conversational Intelligence for High Growth Teams, and Seamless.AI. I really appreciate the support on the sponsors. I want to thank my co-founder, Julia Nimchinski. And yeah, we have so many sponsors. I couldn't even get through them all without a glass of water. Let's look at the email. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna just to set the stage. Are you guys familiar with reputation management services? Any of the panelists? Imagine you get like a bad review, and it's like on page 1, but you've gotten a lot of other great reviews, but this one's like a sore spot on page 1. These reputation management services have a way to not get rid of it, but to kind of push it down and show not just the 1 or 2 people that are showing you in a negative light, but the hundreds of people that actually liked the salmon and didn't send it back, as an example. So let me actually share this email with you. We'll kind of walk it through. You'll see it kind of follows this format of this kind of structure. You guys seeing this? Okay, so here's that first sentence, right? Scanned your company on page 1. Now, look at what Justin did here. I really like this, because what I had was this. And he kind of turned it into this, which is shorter and kind of more casual. So that's the thing that you noticed. I noticed the negative review. That's the T sentence. Something true that you noticed. Just one sentence. Why does this matter? We're helping other Toyota dealerships like you clear this page. And why does that matter? Because you can get more customers in the door. If you would have stopped here, the prospect would have said, so what? It's kind of like the conversation I was having with Samantha earlier, which was, so what? So it drives 2K in customers. And then what happens if I do nothing? Love this sentence. Per this very well-respected third-party credibility, like Gardner, Moz is very well-respected. One negative review loses this. This is the terrible, no good thing that happens if I don't do anything. And then Justin even gets crispier here. We have an algorithm, an algo that aligns SEO content to negative sentiment. This is what I mean by crispy. This is kind of the juice here. When I say it's hard because you have to have deep knowledge to lift this stuff up. Would it make sense to meet briefly to see how you might be able to leverage this? So that's the idea of it. Another way to do this, hey, Josh, noticed you're doing Ironman Cozumel. What are you doing to ensure you don't overheat on the run? Ironman athletes are using our heat training to ensure the last 6 miles don't turn into a Frankenstein walk. Want to know how they're doing it? Same idea. Frankenstein walk is triathlon lingo. That's like insider stuff. So without further ado, we're going to actually see how you guys did on this assignment. Now, this is a little tricky because you just got the scoring card after you've written your email. It would have been nice if you got the scoring card first, but that's not how this is set up. So let's see how you guys did, and we'll kind of go through it. Who wants to go first?
Can I pause? Does anyone need a little more time? We can go right into it. Yeah, it's fine. We're breaking the mold slightly of the game, but with Josh Braun on the line, it's all good. That's part of the game. The best military strategy changes on the ground.
Wait, what am I doing? I'm curious. What am I doing? I'm not following the rules.
No, you are. The beauty is we were going to give them some more time to do it, but it sounds like they came prepared and they were editing it. I just wanted to give it as an option, or we can go in order so those that need more time can share later. Who is ready and feels that they have the format? Wow. See, these are the marketers. They're somehow
Samantha,
ready.
You're still ready. Samantha, you're still ready.
Samantha studied all your stuff beforehand, read your whole feed.
You're ready, Samantha. You're going to be just fine.
Okay, let's go. It's all good.
I'll with you, Andy.
Okay. I'll just share my screen, just to make it a bit easier.
Okay.
If I can find it.
I have a lot of cat videos on my screen, just to be honest. So go ahead, Andy.
I just making sure I'm sharing the right one. So this is it here.
Okay.
You want me to read it? Or
yeah. Give it a read.
Okay. Hi, Josh. You're the C-level executive at this company I'm reaching out to. I see you're hiring a CMO. That can be a tricky move with a small marketing team. Are you certain you need a senior full-time hire? Until June 2020, I was a CMO with a fast-growing tech startup. Lead feeder, we grew from 4 million to 10 million ARR in 18 months. I can help you. Paige thought she needed a full-time VP of marketing until recently. Then quote from Paige, actually directly from her. You jumped in, figured shit out real fast, and then helped us decide what matters and what to do next. Can I lift up the hood and take a look at your marketing data with you? Free of charge, 1 hour. When works best this week? Thanks, Andy.
All right, Andy. So let's do this. A little untraditional. Based on the little lecture that you had just now from me, what's one thing you think you did well with this email and one thing you think you'd like to improve, if anything?
So one thing I think I did well would be like the bit the truth at the start. I think I brought that through. I could probably do it a bit better though, I think. Like I'm not 100% happy with that at the start. I think it's like a half truth, right? It doesn't get enough into like what the problem can be on their side further down the line, but it's, you know, the truth from their side. And then what I could do a bit better, do you know what? I'm not too happy with the second part there, the until June 2020. I think it's gone too much into me and not enough into them. But I find it like the thing that I found tricky there was trying to prove my value to them in so short words, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a great analysis. So let me give you my take. When we say things like that can be a tricky move, and are you certain? Prospects can smell your commission breath.
Okay.
Because they know you're leading them to yes. It's like saying, if I could show you how to make $5 million, would you want to talk to me? If I could show you something interesting, would you be interested? So these leading questions are off-putting. Of course, you're going to say that. You're biased. You want a sale.
Yeah.
So we want to be more neutral. Notice how Justin's email that he wrote was neutral. It was kind of like just the facts, so that you can decide if this is something that's going to motivate you. So in the first, this is how I would start it. Hi, Josh. Notice you're hiring a CMO, which typically means you're looking to X. Let's actually write that under Josh. So hi, Josh. Noticed, not I see you're hiring. Noticed you're hiring a CMO.
Yep.
Notice you're hiring a CMO, which typically means what? What does it typically mean? You kind of mentioned this before in the briefing.
Typically means you've just received a round of funding.
Well, but what are they hoping the CMO is going to help them do?
Grow.
Yeah, which means you're typically looking to.
So you're on a high growth path.
I would just say typically means you're looking to scale.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the reason why they would hire a CMO. Now, what is it that you know that they don't know? What you know is the CMOs don't roll up their sleeves and don't get real tactical, right?
Yeah.
So let's see if we can kind of let's see. When you say, "Are you certain you need a full-time hire?" That's kind of a leading question, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, how do you know? Curious. How do you know? How would you finish that? How do you know
that a senior leader is necessary or something like that?
How do you know you're kind of on the right track? Let me give you an example of this. Well, let's imagine that you are a staffing firm placing salespeople. You might say something like, how do you know a good interview, a salesperson that passes a good interview will actually be a good sales hire?
Okay. So how do you know your senior leader is what's needed? It's like in so
allow
many.
You to execute.
Yeah.
How do you know a CMO? How do you know a CMO?
You know, if CMO will be an executor.
There you go. Question mark. Okay, now we want to do, that's the second sentence. And now we want to do is what you do. So now your thing is like, let's see, okay, now you say, I've helped other, let's see, what kind of company are they? Startups?
Startup. So like, yeah, so Series A.
Let's be more specific. I've helped other Series A
tech startups. Tech
from 4 to 10 million ARR in 18 months.
Yeah.
I hate to rush you, Josh, but he's 1 of 4 and we have 25 minutes. So
All right, so just like finish this one and then go for it in 18 months, and then we'll just say worth exploring. Yeah, I can help you up. There you go. And then just say worth exploring. Question mark. That's the idea. And you can cut the rest of that stuff out. And then you might want to, if we're going to have time for this, but you might want to put another sentence after the 18 months, kind of like what Justin says, it involves, and then tactical execute, whatever the kind of the secret sauce is there, like the Moz one, it involves an algorithm that does X, Y, and Z to make it a little more specific, but still a little vague. So they're going to lean forward. Was this helpful, Andy?
This is perfect. Thank you so much, man.
All right, let's go to number 2, Robyn. I'm going to be a little quicker here.
Unmute, shared screen. Can you see it?
Yep, I can see it.
So subject line, Josh, quick question. Hey, Josh, I saw you're hiring inbound SDRs on LinkedIn. Curious if you only have inbound lead generation at the moment. When a company focuses solely on inbound, they usually aren't prepared when the lead famine hits. Asking since we helped Acquia grow their outbound sales team from 3 to 25 reps and create an extra 6 million in the pipeline in less than a year. Outbound went from generating nothing to creating 40% of the new business pipeline. If it makes sense to chat, when's good for a call? Thanks, Robyn.
How do you know this team doesn't have outbound SDRs? You know that for sure. Just because they're hiring inbound, does that mean that they don't have outbound?
I've scrolled their LinkedIn and also seen that there's no SDRs at the company.
Okay, so let's so then what I would say is this. Hey Josh, and let's make this all one paragraph, kind of like Justin talks about, make it look like a text message. So, hey Josh, and then just a dash. Hey Josh, dash. And then noticed. You're hiring SDRs in Austin, inbound SDRs in Austin. Then I would say, I wouldn't say curious if you've only had lead generation at the moment. I would say, what are you doing to ensure you have a consistent, to ensure you have consistent lead flow? Something like that. And then I would go into, we helped Acquia grow. You don't say asking since, you can just say, we helped Acquia grow. And I would say outbound went from, instead of outbound went from generating nothing to creating 40% of new business, I would say generating 40% of net new business, just say generating 40% of net new business, period. Want to know how they did it? In that same paragraph. Actually, instead of what are you doing to ensure consistent lead flow, what are you doing to ensure you don't experience the feast or famine rut associated with just doing inbound? Something like that. What are you doing to ensure you don't have a feast or famine rut? Something like that, yeah. There you go. Something like that. And I cut that last sentence out if it makes sense to call, when's a good time to call. And then move the thanks, Robyn, up to that after the question mark.
So all one paragraph.
Yeah.
It's like a marketing,
like a tweet.
Design nightmare.
Yeah, Justin, you want to add a little color on that? I know Justin talks about this a lot, about why to format the emails like this.
Yeah, I call this compacting, like trash compacting, because it's weirdly on Android handsets. There's like hundreds of Android models, and just clumping it into a paragraph, it renders differently on the screens. You just kind of get more screen real estate rather than having the different spaces. So that's and it also looks more text messagey. So yeah, it tends to upgrade the marketing department when you don't have the paragraphs and iambic pentameter and King James out there, Andy. Get the Brits in. But we got to keep moving. Thank you for this, Josh? We're getting some rave reviews.
Feast or famine rut, Robyn, I think. Feast or famine rut.
It sounds like a band from the 70s or something.
Yeah, my one question was like we've taken out the words like lead generation. So if I'm reading this, like do I still put that near the start somewhere?
Yeah, and the reason I wouldn't do that is I like to stay away from words that everyone uses. Lead generation, 360-degree view, end-to-end platform, all these things sound like everyone else, so that you're a white circle in a sea of white circles. What we're doing, when you notice Justin's email than the ones we're rewriting for you, is we're using words that are a little bit different and they're crispy and they're more specific. It's harder to do that because you have to have depth of knowledge. Notice in Justin's email, the algorithm does this, like that's depth of knowledge compacted into a sentence. It's hard to do. When we say we help you increase leads, that's the opposite. That's what everybody says. Oh, I've never heard that before. I can increase leads, I can save money, I can save time, I can lose weight. So we're trying to be more crispy and specific. And in order to do that, you got to get deeper now. You got to get deeper. So feast or famine run, it's a little bit different. I think people can kind of relate to it a little bit more, kind of gets the point across. But it's basically, that's the terrible thing that happens when you don't do nothing, right? We talked about that in Andy's email. If they do nothing there, they don't have a predictable lead flow. So they have some months where they're making money and other months where they can't pay the bills. That's bad. In Arthur's case, what's really bad is paid all this money and we're not, and their leads are going to the competitor. We're paying to have the leads go to the competitor. That's bad.
Who hasn't gone?
What happens if someone does nothing?
I'll go next.
All right, Samantha.
All right, wait, Samantha, are you the last? Did everyone else go? Robyn is not gone. Who's gone?
Arthur still has to go.
Okay, we got Samantha and Arthur, right?
Yeah.
Plenty of time. Awesome. Just want to stay ahead of it because I want Josh to be able to give some final thoughts on how he does the judging. Let's do this.
Should I read it?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Josh, you're probably skeptical of this. I'll put your mind at ease and say there's no persuasion tactics to follow. I hate commission breath as much as you do. How do you know your mission to eliminate it is getting maximum reach? We teach non-traditional approaches to selling like yours on the Sales Hacker podcast. As the chief evangelist of being a red X in a sea of white circles, you're obviously our ideal guest. Are you interested in teaching 50,000 plus monthly listeners to ditch the pitch and guide people toward the sale? Guest success stories and ROI attached below.
Everyone give it up for Samantha there. So let me talk about this. This is great. So this email, as she was reading it, I was smiling. So much of an email is how it makes the person feel on the other end. We're talking about rules here, but a lot of this too is like, can you make the person feel good? And this one is a 10 out of 10 on that. So I love how she starts off with what Chris Voss calls an accusation audit. The negative thing that the person is probably thinking. Josh, you're probably going to be skeptical of this. Like on a cold call. Justin, you're probably going to hate me because this is a cold call. I know I'm interrupting you. Would you like to hang up or roll the dice today? So I love that. I'll put your mind at ease and say there's no persuasion tactics. The reason that's great is that I talk about that all the time. So that shows that she knows a little bit about me and how I talk. Shows that she cares. She spent a little time. I can't tell you how many of these types of emails I get a day asking me to be on their podcast that I lose me after the first two sentences. The purpose of each of these sentences is to get me to read the next one. So she's done that beautifully in the first two. And I like the little smiley icon. I hate commission breath as much as you do. I write about commission breath all the time. So again, she's joining the conversation already in my head. She's talking like I talk. Just like we did in Robyn's email and just like we did in the previous email, we're kind of joining, in Andy's email, we're joining the conversation using their words. And then what do they do? What can they do for me? We teach non-traditional selling approaches. That's interesting. That's curious. What is a non-traditional approach? Like that's usually like a word like unusual approach, unconventional, lesser known. And when you use words like that, you're piquing interest. As the chief evangelist for being a red X and a Seer White goes, you're probably our ideal guest. Okay, again, she's using my language. Now here's what's in it for me. Are you interested in teaching 50,000 monthly listeners to ditch the pitch? Because I know reach is a currency, a stepping currency. The only thing that I might add to it is 50,000 salespeople. Because listeners aren't my ICP, but salespeople are. I love this email. Sure, we could shorten it a little bit, but I like the feel of it. I like what you've done with it. I'm going to say this. I wouldn't change a thing on this one. Nice job, Sam.
I definitely changed a lot after you gave us the scorecard. So thank you.
Nice job. And if
I
this
call
is
this.
I would love to be on the podcast. If that was real offer, I'm in.
Look, you
Yeah.
achieved it. Awesome. I call this hyper personalization because I think if you take things that are traditionally softer personalization, but you stack them like personalization stacking, then it starts to become powerful. Because if I know that Josh Braun likes Don Henley and just got a ceramic bike and is in Boulder, Colorado, at that point, there's nothing business related, but he's like, okay, talk to me. Or if I know Jeremy Donovan, specifically which kind of cat he has, then it's like you've been paying really close attention, you know. And I've used this to contact celebrities, impossible to reach people. I actually did Chris Voss, and I said, wouldn't you want to get in touch with me? Or what was it? Have you given up on a life-changing opportunity to talk to me? And the only thing he ever wrote me was, yes. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, a great job here. I kind of call it stalk before you talk. Right. So if there's a subset of people that are active on social, not everybody is. Like me, I'm pretty active. Stalk before you talk. And I love Justin's idea there of stacking it. Like Samantha did that really well. Like it was first, you're probably going to hate me. That's the Voss stuff. Commission breath, red X. And then she hit me with what happens if I do nothing? I miss out on these 50,000 people. And then she also created curiosity by saying non-traditional. Like, what is that? What does she know that I don't know?
Your word.
Oh, my word.
That word was on your site, so
That's why I like it.
but I like it.
All right, good job, Samantha. Let's go to Arthur.
All right, I was going to share, Josh, an email, I think not based on Poke the Bear, but that actually got my first deal at Chili Piper. And I wanted to take into account the coaching. So let's do the on the fly email that I want you to rip apart here.
I was waiting for at least one contestant to defy the coaching, but that doesn't really do well in the grading at the end.
Yeah, no, not at all. All right, so we got Josh. Notice that it takes your sales team 4+ hours to respond to inbound leads. How do you know your sales reps aren't hurting your conversion metrics? You may be aware that conversion can drop by 300% when it takes you over 4 hours to reply. This is why in B2B, 70 to 85% of inbound leads never make it into the sales pipeline. It's a lot of high intent leads that never get to see if you can solve their problem. Company X was taking 5 hours to respond to leads and now are able to do it within seconds, which led to tripling their inbound pipeline. Given that your sales reps are taking 4+ hours to respond, are you interested in learning more?
Okay. What's one thing you think you did well there, Arthur? And one thing after you've heard the lecture and some of the feedback on some of your other contestants that you might want to change?
I like right from the get-go. This is something I would do where I just submit an inbound lead to see how long it would take. And then how do you know, like getting them to think about it? I think this might come across as a little too hypey. And it's a lot, I guess, within the message there. But yeah, those are the two things that kind of caught my eye.
Okay. So I agree with you. I like the first sentence. I would say noticed your sales team takes 4+ hours to respond to inbound leads. Now, we're going to do in the second sentence is we're going to talk about something called loss aversion, which I know we've been talking a lot about in this lecture today, but we're just going to give it a name. It's called loss aversion. What terrible thing happens if they do nothing? How do you know you're not losing 4 to 8% of your leads every month to your competitors?
Yeah.
And then I would do something like what Justin wrote. You know, per Gartner, when it takes longer than an hour to respond to leads, you lose them. And then I would do the third-party credibility statement. the third-party sentence. Acme and Beta recently used us. Acme and Beta are responding to leads in less than 15 minutes. Tripling their inbound pipeline. Or instead of saying tripling, I would say increasing pipeline. I would be more specific there.
Okay.
Let me give you like an example here of what I mean by being a little more specific. So one of these, I was helping a company called Gravy. And Gravy, imagine the problem you have if you're like me, you charge a subscription for a course and people's credit card fail because it was expired or they got stolen and they have to recover that credit card payment. And they have a technology that does that. So what they said is, hey, before using us, they had recovered 23%, and now they're recovering 70%. So it's the contrast. So Acme and Beta are responding to leads in 5 minutes compared to 1 hour before. And then Dash, increasing new biz by 15% or something as a placeholder. Now let's put all that in one paragraph and let's cut out the last sentence. Lose them to your two competitors. Per Gartner, and we could probably just make not there. Yeah, yeah, there you go.
You're not.
I would say, how do you know per Gartner when it takes longer than an hour to respond, you lose, period. And then the last sentence, worth exploring. Something like that. I mean, just as you know, I know we're kind of limited on time, but something kind of like that. Because what we're doing is we're highlighting what terrible thing happens. I lose every month. And I would say after losing the competitors, I would say MOM, month over month, to even hours. How do you know you're not losing? Yeah, there you go. M small o capital M question mark. I'm losing it every single month. Yeah, and quite there you go. You got it. Yeah, something kind of like that. How does that look to you, Arthur?
It's interesting. Nothing I've ever tried before, but I'm curious. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit tighter, a little more concise. Could probably tweak it a little bit, but that's the idea. All right, Justin, I think we went through everybody.
Fantastic, because I wanted to give some time. I'm gonna read the sponsors one more, and because I really want to thank all these awesome companies. And I know, Josh, you use some of these companies in your stack: Outreach, SalesLoft, ConnectAndSell, PandaDoc, Chili Piper, leadiQ, SalesFeed, ChatMetrics, Syncari, Slintel, Outplay, Sapper Consulting, Vidyard, Lob, Wingman Conversational Intelligence, and Seamless.AI. We have a strong crew on the line, and we want to talk about coaching. I think everyone here did a phenomenal job. I mean, I feel like everyone brought a great email. Josh, how would you eliminate someone? We have 5 to 7 minutes. Would you give a reflection overall on kind of before, after, or anything you noticed working with this group today?
Everybody did such a phenomenal job. They clearly demonstrated, even in their original drafts, that they put the prospect's best interest before their own. Each of them had a unique perspective. They identified something that they knew that the prospect didn't know that could hurt them. So all of them did really well on that. It's really tough to eliminate someone, Justin, but I have to eliminate someone?
Not yet. I'm going to do one more exercise. So you still have a few minutes in your mind. Can you sell us your service, or we want to hear how you would do it, or maybe just see your email again? Whether it's Sales DNA or Josh Braun, just can we flip the camera and have you do the exercise? Even if it's live.
Yeah. So if I were to cold call someone, we can do it live, so we can make it quicker than an email. And let's say I cold called Andy. We'll just kind of role play it for a second. We'll pretend that Andy is a director of business development, and he's got some SDRs that he's managing. and he's selling into HR. So he has an HR solution. And so Andy's going to pick up the phone, and I'm going to show you how I would make a cold call, how this would go. And it's very similar to how I would do an email. So Andy, go ahead and just pick up the phone and say hello.
Andy Culligan speaking.
Andy, Josh Braun, we've never met, but I was hoping you could help me out for a moment.
Yeah, pretty busy, but yeah, okay. Like, what can I do for you?
Thanks so much. I promise to be brief.
Okay.
So many of the biz dev managers I work with say that their SDRs are making lots of cold calls, but they're hearing, I'm not interested far too many times, or send me some information. So I was just curious to know how that compares with your experience over there at Acme when you're prospecting into HR directors.
Yeah, I mean, you get some of that, but it's also, we also find it's hard to connect. You know, actually getting connect now, especially in the past year with COVID and everything, it makes things a little bit tricky, you know?
Hard to connect? What are you connecting, like 1 out of 100, like 2 out of 100? Curious about that.
So up until March of last year, we had about sort of a 6% connect rate, which is, you know, high-ish. And then it dropped down to sort of 2% around then because we found it hard to get people's mobile numbers.
Okay, so what I'm doing here, and we're not going to go through this whole conclusion here, but what I'm doing is I'm creating an opening. I'm kind of poking the bear and I'm creating an opening to start a dialogue, not about closing. I'm not assuming that he has the problem. Where I can go from here is that I have a service that I use. His name is Ryan Reiser, where what he does is he pre-calls down the leads. So he knows who's going to pick up and who's not. So instead of connecting at 6% or 4%, you connect at 15%. And so I might kind of float that around in the conversation as we kind of go deeper into it. But I'm always starting with, many of the people I work with tell me this: how are you dealing with that? How are you going about that today? Very rarely do I hear I'm not interested, because I'm not pitching anything. I'm trying to understand their current state without having an assumption or an ulterior motive. I'm kind of poking the bear. This is a cold call that I got from Kendra. She used the same approach on me. She said, hey, Josh, a lot of the course creators we work with say they're losing 6 to 8% of their revenue every month due to failed credit card transactions. So I was just curious, like, how are you going about recovering your payments today? And I said, I'm using Stripe for that. I don't have a problem. And she said, hey, hopefully I'm not poking my nose in where it doesn't belong, but how do you know that Stripe isn't losing you money without you knowing it? And I said, I'm not sure. She goes, well, I'll send you the login to Stripe, show you where to check. And if you see a problem, we could talk. Does that sound fair? I said, sure. And she sent me a doc. I checked. I didn't have the problem. And that was the end of the conversation. But it's not a pitch. It's illuminating how they're doing it today to see if there's a gap. And I love the kind of transition of, we work with this. This is what they're telling us. How are you dealing with that? How are you going about that today? What are you doing to do that? Not as a mechanism to sell anybody anything. Not as just assuming you got it covered. I don't know. And then just leaning back and not having the assumption. And because when you don't have the assumption, you don't bring that commission breath. So hopefully, does that answer your question, Justin, or did I get off the rails there?
No, I love it. Where you have 2 minutes to go and it's ultra hard. I guess everyone did great. So someone's going to get eliminated. And remember, if you win this whole competition, you have the glory of winning a GTM game that Julia came up with. So, you know, we're doing this for glory of intellectual knowledge. We want you all to use these techniques. If you're tuning in, go do something different with your email, compact it, change it around, try something Josh mentioned today. If you're just theoretical, what's the point? Do something different tomorrow. Josh, who had the strongest, who had the weakest, and why?
So I'm going to keep Samantha because of what I spoke about before. Selling's really an emotion. And when you make someone feel like she made me feel in that email, it's really hard to eliminate someone that's going to do that. So it's an emotion. Selling's an emotion. So I'm going to keep Samantha. I'm also going to keep Arthur because the point of view was so strong. Right? The point of view was so strong of, hey, I'm losing out on all these things because I know it's taking your reps more than 4 hours. And the reason that matters is they're going to your competitors. You're paying to get them to your competitors. Strong, right? So now we got down to Andy and Robyn. And Andy, the only reason I'm going to eliminate you, the only reason is because I didn't hear why it mattered. It felt a little lectury to me, and it felt a little judgmental. And I didn't quite, we kind of worked through it and grasped it a little bit, but it felt a little bit biased and the questions were a little leading, which to me is a little commission breath. And it was really tough because you did an awesome job of revamping it. But if I got to eliminate one, Justin, I'm gonna have to go with Andy. Sorry, Andy.
That's what we got. I'm going to do a shameless plug here to thank Josh. I want everyone listening to make sure you go get I'm going to say it, Badass B2B Growth Guide. That is the name. It has sold over 3,000 copies. I've used it at scale, and I've been able to do personalization at scale. There's some advanced techniques in there. If you dig really deep, like turning imagery into websites and then populating that into sequencers, there's some stuff in there that's level 3 black belt. So if you've been in there but not finished the course, I see you. Go finish your course. It works on mobile devices, and go try it all. I ran it with Matt Kloss, who was an SDR, who's now an AE and director, and it worked like butter. You'll get what you put into it. But I want to promote Josh Braun and thank him for being part of Hype Cycle. GTM Games tomorrow, we have Brian Asselser, who is at SaaStr and former Aircall, and he's going to walk you through the demolition, breaking down demos. And that's what we got. Josh, any parting thoughts?
Oh, thank you everybody for being such good participants. It was a lot of fun. And thanks for inviting me, Justin.
Yeah, definitely. Such a pleasure. So hypecycle.com, make sure you register tomorrow, 10:30 a.m., the next day, 10:30 a.m., and Friday culminates in an end game with VC Sam Shepard. And, marketers are becoming sellers or becoming marketers. What does it all mean? Find out more. Let's see. I'm Justin Michael, and I approve this message. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I can't read the sponsors again. I'll need more water.
See you guys. Take care.